So as Heather mentioned, we're doing these 10 Oxherding Pictures. Those who've not come across this before, they're 1,000 years old, and they're a series of 10 pictures that describe the stages of awakening. And each stage has a picture itself, and there's a little poem, and it describes that particular stage. And there's no particular one set of pictures that represent the 10 Oxherding Pictures. These are the ones that I'm using, published by Tuttle. And you can see another one here. This is a different one. That's number 5, the ox leading the ox home. And that's a different one there. And if you want to have a look at it after the service, there's another series that are just here, which is in colour. And again, they're different. But they're used in Zen teaching just to describe those different stages. We're not sort of looking at the Zen aspect here, but we're using them in order to just get a sense of what those stages are. So if you open your books to the, sound like a teacher, open your books to page 1, or no, so 2, and you can see the first one. I just do a quick thing. Searching for the ox. There's the thing. Does anybody here like to say what characteristics are for searching for the ox? Anybody? Bruce, very quickly, you're saying the whole of my phone. Searching for the ox. What are the characteristics?
The key here is the guy's got a whip.
Yeah.
And he's like whipping himself. He has a sense that there's something beyond his narrow little world of trying to exist, and he wants to know what it is. He wants to find it. So he's got the energy. He just doesn't know what he's doing.
Fantastic, good. So that first one is searching for the ox, searching for me. I'm going to go to number 2 now. So if you'd like to.
Further comment on number 1.
Oh, further comment on number 1. Yes, here we are. Let's have a further comment.
Yes, one of the things that I noticed first is the direction of his feet. And it's like they're headed in a different than his face. I mean, he looks like, am I going to follow my feet or am I going to follow my head?
That's very good. Different direction for his feet. Anyone like to give a go at number 2? Number 2. We do like silence here. Number 2, seeing the traces. That's when it might be that you suddenly see a film or hear something and you think, my goodness me, that makes sense. And you start to investigate it. You go to a seminar, you read a book, you suddenly think, well, perhaps there is something more, and you just follow it through. You just see the traces, how it works, what might happen, and maybe you start a little practice, but you're investigating that possibility that there could be more meaning in life. Okay.
What's he holding in his hand?
He's holding what he's holding in his hand there. One hand has got the whip, and the other hand has got a rope that he's hoping to attach to the ox. So you'll see that appear later on. What about number 3? Anyone want to go at number 3? It helps if people put their hands up. And yes, there we are. Let's have a go. Number 3, yeah.
I'm just reading my notes that I
took. You can read your notes. That's fine.
I wrote that it's encouraging glimpses, a trace of what we're looking for, and letting the struggle go.
That's exactly encouraging glimpses. That's when you suddenly get a glimpse of that true nature. Experience little glimpse of Satori, little glimpse of maybe new meditation. Think, wow, you just catch a glimpse of the possibility of what it is. And it's like falling in love. That really encourages you. Once you catch a glimpse, you think, right, I'm going to go to the chapel every week now, and I'm going to read these books, and I'm going to do this. And you just commit, in a sense, to the spiritual life. Yes, please. No, please go. What else?
Because this is something about, I also wrote that the mind's in search of the actual truth, but then I wrote our dissatisfaction is the whip.
Our dissatisfaction is the whip. That's exactly it. The thing that makes us dissatisfied in our lives, we think, oh gosh, that is the thing that keeps us going, that moves us on. The dissatisfaction. You can fill that dissatisfaction with drink or dope or whatever it is, or you can fill that dissatisfaction with a search for the true nature, because the ox represents God, the true nature. It represents our search for meaning in life. So number 4, anyone like to go at number 4, catching the ox? And there's Drew, there's the thing he was holding in his other hand. The thing. Yes, John, let's have catching the ox.
Well, in finding the ox, he only sees the back half of the ox. So he doesn't see the whole ox, which I've experienced in my life. I don't see the whole ox all the time. In catching the ox, he actually sees the whole ox. He has the whole ox. And on the end of the little rope is a nose ring, I think.
That's right, that's right. And when he's caught the ox, there is a struggle. And that's the struggle you have with your mind when you're pulled back to your old ways of doing things. What you really want to do is really do the calmness, do your practice, but you sleep in, you don't realize the clocks have gone back or forward or whatever they are. You miss the little thing that's happening in your life, and there's a struggle. Like when you fall in love, there's the struggle that goes with it. There's the joy and the struggle, but he's attached by the rope to the ox. Okay, number 5, herding the ox. Any ideas about herding the ox? John, again, yes.
Yeah, the rope is now attached to the nose ring, and he's actually leading the ox.
That's right. And what that is about is that, in the struggle, we tend to get taken by our ideas from one place to the other. And now, one idea follows another, and then another, and we just know we are watching our ideas. We're not moved by our ideas. We've got a sense of that, what that true nature is. We're starting to combine with the true nature itself. We're both of it together in the same place. Okay, number 6, coming home on the ox's back. Any thoughts about that? John! I'll get an apple next, I think. Yes, what's that doing?
In herding the ox, he's looking around to see where he's going to go.
Yeah.
In coming home with the ox, he's on the back of the ox, playing his penny whistle, which means he sort of went from bewilderment to confidence, and the ox is turning his head to look where they're going to go next.
That's it, yes. There's a sense of joy. That's that moment when you've got that sense of your nature. And you can play. There's no longer that sense of obligation. You're playing your flute, and actually the ox is leading him home. And the idea of that is that the universe actually is calling to us. And our true nature, once we get to our true nature, it leads us home. It actually takes us to that place. But there's a sense of joy. In the Christian terms, there's a great thing which says in Galatians, which says, there is no law under the Spirit. Do what thou wilt, St. Augustine said. And that's that idea of being able just to celebrate in the Spirit. Suddenly you are, you're with your true nature, and there's a sort of joy of singing with that. Yes, Drew.
Also, surrender as compared to the earlier couple where it was about control.
Absolutely.
And so that's quite a key.
It is quite a key. It's complete surrender.
I am telling myself.
Yeah. Thank you, Drew. Yes, Andy, what about you? You were going to say something.
I remember the first time I saw this, I immediately thought of the prodigal son in the Bible coming home and being accepted no matter what he had done. He lost all his money. His father still accepted him.
Yes. There is very much a prodigal son aspect to that. And he's coming home. There's a sense of relief in that and things like that. Okay, number 7, the ox is forgotten, leaving the man alone. Any thoughts? Bruce, let's go for that. Here we are, Bruce. The ox is forgotten.
Well, to piggyback on Andy's comment, Joseph Campbell, the hero of 1,000 faces, where you start off in your hometown and, you're restless. You know what you're going to do, and something beckons you to sort of, hey, come on, you need to go on an adventure. Obi-Wan Kenobi, come on, you can do it. And, you don't want to, but you do because you got the whip. You have to go through a lot of, then you go into the journey and all the struggle, and then you come back home and you are a bigger, better, more capable person. And you now become a resource for your village. So when he gets back to the village, he has become the path, if you will. He doesn't need sort of this artificial prop, the ox. That's why the ox is gone. And he's just happy to be there. And other people sort of sense, wow, this dude is, you know, he's at peace. And he seems so happy. I've got a whip. I want some of that too, you know. So now he's become a sort of a leader for the next generation of people who start to seek and do the whole process.
A role model, yeah. Yeah, the key thing here, I think that's good, is it says in the instructions here that, you know, it says the ox is just a metaphor. And who needs the fishing line and the trap for the hare when what you've got is the fish and the hare? You've actually achieved what you want. So all the sort of things that go for the search are no longer needed. He's completely relaxed in his state of being at one with his nature, being at one with who he is. And I said last week, and I'll mention it later on, but there's an oral tradition that says that this is the end point of the journey, and that the next three pictures describe from different dimensional perspectives what that end point looks and feels like when you're in that end point. So he's reached that point of complete knowledge of who he is. He's just there, and everything else is actually, you know, the whip is hung up. He doesn't need any of that anymore. So we get to the ox and man both gone out of sight. It's interesting, I do follow, you know, when you do things, you do research on what you're doing. So you read books and things like that. There's this one bloke on the internet who did all the first 7 Oxherding Pictures and then stopped at number 7. And I can understand why when I had a look at this particular picture. Because, you know, all confusion, it says, is set aside, and serenity alone prevails. All confusion is set aside, and serenity alone prevails. Even the idea of holiness does not obtain. He does not linger about where the Buddha is, and as to where there is no Buddha, he speedily passes by. When there exists no form of dualism, even a 1,000-eyed one fails to detect a loophole. A holiness before which birds offer flowers is but a farce. All is empty, the whip, the rope, the man, and the ox. Who can ever survey the vastness of heaven? Over the furnace burning ablaze, not a flake of snow can fall. When this state of things obtain, manifest is the spirit of the ancient master. What is this? What is this no place? What is this nothingness that it speaks of? Just a bit of guidance. One from Zen Master Dogen says, to study the way of enlightenment is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by the myriad of things. When actualized by the myriad of things, your body and mind and will, as well as the bodies of all minds of others, drop away. When actualized by the myriad of things, your body and mind will, as well as the body and minds of all others, drop away. No trace of enlightenment remains. And this no trace continues endlessly. And there's another quote from Thich Nhat Hanh that we had the other week. Concentration on emptiness is a way of staying in touch with life. with life as it is. But it has to be practiced. Concentration on emptiness has to be practiced and not just talked about. We observe our body and see all the causes and conditions that have brought to be. Our parents brought us to be, our country, the air, even future generations. We go beyond time and space, me and mine, and we taste true liberation. If we only study emptiness as a philosophy, it will not be a door to liberation. If we only study it as a philosophy, it will not be a door to liberation. Emptiness is a door of liberation when we penetrate it deeply and we realize interdependent co-arising and the interbeing nature of everything that is. So I'm wanting just to give these things, just to give you an idea of the area that we're talking about. The area where there's nothing to achieve. And in achieving that nothing, we become the emptiness we seek. There is nothing to achieve. And in nothing to achieve, and in achieving that nothing, we become the emptiness that we seek. And as it says in the Dhammapada, the Buddhist Dhammapada, it is not good conduct that helps you on your way, nor ritual, nor book learning, nor withdrawal into the self, nor deep meditation. None of these confers mastery or joy. O seeker, rely on nothing until you want nothing. This is where we're at now. We're at that relying on nothing until we want nothing. So look, what do you think this picture is? Well, have a look at it. What do you think it is? You can just put your hand out and shout out. What do you think it is?
Heaven on earth.
Sorry? It looks like heaven on earth. Good. Fantastic. Anything, heaven on earth. Anything else? So it's a circle of life. That's very good. Yes, Drew? Divinity. There is no edges, no beginning, no end. Nothing is hidden. Okay? Yes, Barbara.
Total light.
Sorry?
Light.
Light. It is total light. That's good. Yes.
It's nowhere and also everywhere.
That's lovely. It is nowhere and also everywhere. That's right. Yes. Kenosis. Yes, kenosis. That's the emptying out, isn't it? Emptying out. That is kenosis. It's where we can see the perfect circle. Okay, well, I'm not going to tell you what I think it is. So I've given you bits of context. I'm going to now tell you what I think it is. I want everybody to stand up. And you at home, I want you to stand up too. But if you're driving and you're listening to this, I don't want you to stand up. And what I want you to do first of all is, this is what I think it is. I want you to take your hands and I want you to draw your field of vision. Draw your field of vision. See your field of vision and draw it. Go back again and just get a sense of that field of vision that is there. Now, just let your hands go by and just look out and look at that field of, look from that field of vision, from the edge that is that field of vision. And there is your perfect circle. There is your aperture. To me, that is what this represents. There is no beginning and no end to it. Now, what I want you to do is to take your finger and I want you to point at the front wall. Point at the front wall. Now point at that pillar over there. Now point at the ceiling. Now point at the person next to you, either side. Look at where you're pointing. Look at where you're pointing. Now to the organ. Point at the organ where Matt is doing his business up there. Point to the organ there. Now point to me. That's good. Now I want you to take your finger and point to the place where you're looking from. And look at yourself pointing. And then ask, who is looking? Look at that finger pointing. That's you pointing, and ask, who is looking? What is also there behind you that is looking? What is also behind what is looking? What is there in the consciousness that is also looking? Because what you're pointing at is your original face. Imagine you pointing at the face before you had a face. That is what you're pointing at. Now put your finger down and become aware of that field of vision again. And see yourself looking from that original face. And imagine yourself being looked at by all that you're seeing. When you are totally present in your experience, there is no you to be there with. There is just awareness of awareness. When you're totally present with your experience, there is no you to be there with. There is just awareness of awareness. And that is the nothing. The awareness of awareness. It is not good conduct that helps you on your way, nor ritual, nor book learning, nor withdrawal into the self, nor deep meditation. None of these confer mastery or joy. O seeker, rely on nothing until you want nothing. Okay, thank you. You could sit down. And if you're at home, you can sit down as well. Does anyone want to give me a thought or ask a question about what I've just said? There's no need to, but I just want to give an opportunity. Anybody to say anything at all? John.
When I first looked at number 7, the little boy sitting there, and now number 8, your field of vision, I still haven't forgotten about the ox.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any thoughts or experiences? Yeah.
It's a story that was presented by Marcus Borg and also Parker Palmer.
Yeah.
About little girls about 3 years old and having a new sister coming home from the hospital, and the parents put a monitoring device in the new child's room. And the little sister wanted to go talk to the newborn baby. And they thought, well, let's just listen and see what she says. She goes in and talks to the baby and said, tell me about God. I've almost forgotten.
Oh, that's great. Tell me about God. I've almost forgotten. I just get a sense as you walk around or you look around, you're carrying that field of vision, that sense, that circle is there. The edge is constantly there with you when you're looking around. It's your reference point. Anybody else? Okay. So, as I said earlier on, these 3 pictures represent, I think, these last ones, a 3-dimensional description of the arrival at the enlightened state. First, the form. You can look at the pictures. That's the form, which is what we're looking at right now. It's the form. And then the appearance is the next one, which we're looking at next week. And then the purpose, which is we're looking at the final week. And this week, it's your original face meeting the original face of all creation, and all being contained within that perfect circle. All confusion is set aside, it says, and serenity alone prevails. Even the idea of holiness does not obtain. That line, even the idea of holiness does not obtain. That line reminds me of something I've mentioned before. I've mentioned everything before, but it doesn't really matter. that reminds me of that thing in the Bible where when Jesus died, the veil of the temple was rent in twain. And what the veil of the temple represented is that which was sacred, which is in the temple, and that which was profane, the curtain, that which was profane, literally in the Latin profanum, outside the temple. Profanum, outside the temple. The veil of the temple is rent in twain, and that means that everything is sacred. It is that vision of everything, that nothing being holy, but everything being holy. Everything being of the same. Nothing sacred and nothing profane. I'm just going to give you a microphone because, yeah.
When you say original face,
yeah,
do you kind of mean spirit? Like your true self, your spirit?
What's
always been, what always will be?
Yeah, I think that, yes, that is. There's an old koan, which is, what was the face before you had a face? Your original face is the face of creation, really. It is God hovering over the water before God said, let there be light, if I talk about Christian thing. It is that, if you've ever seen Stargate, there's that sense of the original ground of all being.
Yeah, because before when you said look behind you,
yeah,
I thought of my spirit. At first I was confused, and I was like, well, I guess my spirit's behind
yes,
me.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yes, exactly it. Thank you. I mean, the truthful answer to when we ask me that question is, I don't know. Yeah, that is the truthful answer. And I have to say it. It could all be, we offer all of this with the willingness to be wrong. I mean, this is, you can talk a lot of bollocks at this level. And who knows? Nobody really, these are just ideas thrown out, really. And the key thing is you say, test it for yourself. Does this feel right? Does this not feel right? How does this feel, to you? That's the most important question. Because I'm just, offering just what I think, what's come to me. And the truth of the matter is I don't know. So what happens as a priest, people say, what happens when you die? And I really have to say to people, I don't know. You can give you a sense of it, but is the honest answer is an I don't know, I'm afraid. So it reminds me of that, the profanum, the temple when Jesus died. And that idea, he does not linger where the Buddha is. And as to where there is no Buddha, he speedily passes by. The idea of Buddha or no Buddha is irrelevant. Little guru story. The Emperor Wu asked the great teacher Bodhidharma, what is the first principle of holy teaching? The Emperor Wu asked the holy man, what is the first principle of holy teaching? Bodhidharma said, vast emptiness, nothing holy. The first principle of holy teaching, vast emptiness, nothing holy. Who are you standing here in front of me? Asked the emperor. I don't know, said the Bodhidharma. The emperor didn't understand. It's the big I don't know. It's the big I don't know. And being with that big I don't know is the kenosis that Ward was talking about. It's the emptying out, and then suddenly, there you are. There are no ideas as to what's religious and what's not religious. And it's an interesting line, this. A holiness before which birds offer flowers is but a farce. That's what it says in the poem. A holiness before which birds offer flowers is but a farce. And I looked up what that actually meant. And there was a guru story about this guru who was at the top of the mountain, and he was at such an enlightened state. Because in those days, students come and offer flowers to the gurus. That he was in such an enlightened state that the birds themselves offered him flowers. But what this means, just to read it again, a holiness before which the birds offer flowers is but a farce. What this means is that when you reach this enlightened state, the enlightened state that's beyond just being the holy man, you draw no attention to yourself. So the very idea that the birds come and offer you flowers shows that you are drawing attention to yourself. And it's a farce because you're drawing attention to yourself. That's what that means. So there is a not drawing attention to yourself in this state. To be recognized in that way is shameful. When this state of things obtains, manifest is the spirit of the ancient master. It's interesting enough in the book, and I don't know if is it in here? Let me have a look at the bottom of the page. No, it's not. In my book, there's a footnote to this page, and the footnote says, it's interesting to note what a mystic philosopher would say about this. And the mystic philosopher says, a man should become truly poor and as free from his own personal will as when he was born. So a man should to become truly poor in this state of total emptying out, you have to become as free from your personal will as to when you were born. And I say this to you, that as long as you desire to fulfill the will of God, as long as you want to fulfill the will of God, and have any desire after eternity in God, as long as you have any desire after eternity in God, you're not truly poor. You're not in this state. He alone hath true spiritual poverty, who wills nothing, knows nothing, and desires nothing. Wills nothing, knows nothing. And anyone can tell me who this spiritual master was who said this? Sorry? Meister Eckhart. That's absolutely right. Meister Eckhart, Christian, 13th century philosopher, commenting on this. He's talking about willing nothing, wanting nothing, and knowing nothing. Even the idea of wanting to do God's will or any desire for God suggests dualism at play. You are not living from the edge. You're not living from that. You are thinking there's something out there, or there's something I've got to find, or I've got to make God pleased. And that state we're looking at here is the willingness, willing nothing, wanting nothing, and knowing nothing, which is the meditative state. When you're in meditation, the state of meditation is a state where you're willing nothing. You're not trying to get enlightened. You're just being there, willing nothing. You're wanting for nothing. And you're knowing nothing. The not knowing is in there. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. But if it was easy, everybody would know it. If it was easy, this is the hard teaching this. Everybody would know it. And that would take quite some while. We're like at the beginning of mining this stuff. Ilia Delio, has anyone heard of Ilia Delio? Ilia Delio, who is coming here in December of next year. She's committed to come in December. She was asked by somebody, if Christianity is so great, how come, we're still fighting wars and all that sort of stuff? And she said, it's early days yet. If you look at the evolution of things, it's 1,000 years, 2,000 years. That wonderful quote from Chairman Mao when he asked what he thought of the French Revolution. He said, it's too early to tell, he said to Chairman Mao when he was asked that. But it's that sense of, we are right at the beginning of this phase of evolution. It's at the beginning of this phase. We've got a long way to go. And hopefully you just get a glimpse of it. To penetrate this state it's beyond the peak of Everest. You just get a glimpse of it. And when you get a glimpse of this, you understand Zen for the first time. You get a glimpse of that living from the edge. It's like being up in space on the edge of the atmosphere with Earth in front of you and the vastness of space behind you. You're looking out there, looking at the Earth with the vastness of consciousness behind you. It's the same sort of thing. It gives you the scale of the nature of consciousness. But I think the reality is that this is a state to be glimpsed. If you get a glimpse of it today, you just have to glimpse it. It's something to know where we're coming from, to remind ourselves where we're coming from. It's a place, living from that edge is totally non-judgmental. You're just containing the space. You're not judging what's in there or judging. You're just there, where there is a vastness to our scope of vision, where we are the container and the contained. We're the container and the contained. There is no sacred or profane. Where we're all victims of our circumstances, to be looked on with compassion as we try to make the best decisions we can based on the information that we have before us. We're all victims of our circumstances. Everybody. And we have to see the compassion in that. The prodigal son, a perfect example of that. We are vessels of this information, wandering around in the ocean of experience as we witness the world. We're vessels of this information. We carry this information in us. Our glasses are always on the end of our nose, even when we're looking for them. We carry this information. Sometimes we're aware of it and we act accordingly. And at other times we forget it. And therefore we act out of limited information. Consequently, we too end up blaming, judging, reacting in unhelpful ways and shouting at our children. Because this is all about our reactivity. This is all about our reactivity. All of it. The whole gamut of spirituality is about our reactivity. Everything. That quote again from Viktor Frankl that has come up a couple of times. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And this is a picture of that space. That is the picture of that space. And we would do well to remember it in our day-to-day lives, even if it's not a constant experience, because in this picture lies our growth and our freedom. That's what it is a picture of. It's a picture of our growth and our freedom. We're to hold on to the glimpse that we're given as it makes up the three-dimensional picture of these last three stages. The substance of our experience, which we hold as a form and as appearance, that which is before you. We'll talk about that which is before you next week, and the purpose of it we'll talk about in the following week. But it's that glimpse that we're given of being the container and the contained.